back here on the GSM.
Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Monday, September 2nd. We have a lot to talk about on the show today, but before I get into that, just want to remind you guys to tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Go to the $ icon in the chat. By doing this, you will create a super chat that I will acknowledge during the live broadcast, and it just makes the show more lively, more interactive between me and you guys. That's really what it's all about. Any contribution that you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content each and every day. And also the other way to help out the show is also by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, gsmcpodcast.net. And again, we really appreciate however you can help us out as we give you guys content every weekday. So I hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody had a good weekend. Happy Labor Day. So let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. So we're going to start off the show, believe it or not. We are going to talk about college football. I'm going to kind of go through, some of the games, some of the top performances from over the weekend. So also talk about the game tonight. Florida State plays tonight. So we'll talk about that. All college football to start off the show. So there you go. Then in the second part of the show, we'll take a look ahead to Thursday's opening matchup in the NFL between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens. So I'll kind of just talk about Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, the history between these two quarterbacks. So that'll be the second part of the show. Then we'll talk about Jamar Chase, a little bit more of what's going on with that situation, the kind of contract that he wants, according to some reports out there. We'll talk about Deshaun Watson. I know I brought this up last week, but the Browns restructured his contract, so I wanted to talk about the impact of that, how much cap space was cleared up with that. And then I'll give you my predictions for the NFC South. So that'll be how we wrap up the show today. So let's get into the first topic, which is talking about what happened over the weekend in college football. So, first of all, again, it's amazing how different it is between college football and the NFL, because there were a lot of blowouts, and when I mean blowouts, like teams really just dominated against inferior opponents. Because I can't tell you how many games. I mean, obviously, if you're watching this and you're a college football expert, but just looking at some of these lopsided scores, like Arkansas scored 77 points on their opponent on, I think it was Thursday. But, just going through some of these scores. Tennessee over Chattanooga, 69-3. Maryland, 50-7 over UConn. Purdue won their matchup 49-0. Washington State, 70-30. Alabama won their game. I think it was, 63-0? Yeah, 63-0 over Western Kentucky. Texas won 52-0 over Colorado State. Ohio State won 52-6 over Akron. Just so many lopsided scores. But I did want to talk about, and Louisville won 62-0 in their game as well. But I wanted to get into some of the top performances from over the weekend as well, because there's a few I wanted to highlight. The Boise State running back had 6 touchdowns. Aston Jeanty, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, 267 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns on 20 carries. He had an unbelievable game, and that was a high-scoring game between Boise State and Georgia Southern. The final score of that game, I can find it because I'm looking. Oh, another blowout game. Auburn winning 73-3. Yeah, I'm trying to look for that game and I can't find it because there's just so many games were played on Saturday. I'm trying to look for it, but yeah, that was a very, very high scoring game. But yeah, 6 touchdowns in that game. Yeah, 56-45. The final score of that game was 267 yards, like I said. Also, their other running back, Sire Gaines, he had 12 carries for 110 yards and a touchdown. So 7 rushing touchdowns in total. So Boise State won that game 46-45 over Georgia Southern. So that was one of the more exciting games of the weekend. And Georgia Southern was a 13-point underdog. But yeah, I wanted to highlight his performance. Also, Alabama's freshman receiver had a day. 17 years old. Ryan Williams, 2 receptions for 139 yards and 2 touchdowns in Alabama's win over Western Kentucky. 63-0 they won. Jalen Milroe, 3 touchdowns, 200 yards passing. Also had 2 rushing touchdowns as well. So that was another performance I wanted to highlight. And then also for Arizona, I wanted to highlight their receiver as well. Well, first of all, their quarterback, Noah Fafita, 422 yards, 4 touchdowns and a pick, and this was against New Mexico. But their receiver, Tetsuroa McMillan, and when I was watching the highlights, I kept saying T-Mac, the play-by-play guy for ESPN. He kept saying T-Mac. So he finished with 10 receptions for 304 yards and 4 touchdowns. So, I mean, that's unbelievable. So I just wanted to highlight his performance as well. But some other takeaways I have. So, of course, Alabama, they dominated their game, but I also wanted to bring up Michigan as well. So their game was pretty close for a little bit. And obviously, you know, there's no more J.J. McCarthy. There's no more Harbaugh, no more Blake Corum, Roman Wilson. And they were playing against Fresno State. And, yeah, that game was close. You know, it was 10-3 going into the half. But then Michigan took over in the fourth quarter. They scored 17 points in the fourth quarter. But, yeah, I mean, the defense played well, of course, but the offense struggled a little bit. You had Davis Warren play 15-25, 118 yards, 1 touchdown, and a pick. Michigan ran the ball for 148 yards. Actually, I mean, the game got off to a good start for Michigan because Fresno State got the ball to start the game and they threw a pick. And Michigan cashed in and scored a touchdown immediately. So you thought, okay, this game is going to be a blowout. I mean, it still ended up kind of being a blowout, but, you know, it took a while. But yeah, they're not the same team. And this week coming up, they're going to be playing Texas, who just blew out Colorado State 52-0. So that's going to be an interesting game. That's going to be at home. That game is at 12 p.m. Eastern time on Fox. So that could be a game that, you know, gets ugly if their offense plays like it did against Fresno State. So that's just one takeaway. Also, Notre Dame won a big game. Probably the toughest game on their schedule against Texas A&M, you know, and that was a road game for them. They won 23-13. That was an entertaining game. They scored a touchdown with 1:54 left in the game to get themselves up 20-13, and then they kicked a field goal towards the end because I think Texas A&M, they turned it over on downs. So they got the ball back. They ended up winning by 10. But yeah, that's the toughest game on their schedule. They do play Florida State late in the year. They play USC late in the year. But that was the toughest game on their schedule. So that was big for them to get that win. You know, obviously with the playoffs expanding this year. So that was another good game. And then also, of course, I wanted to get to, again, so many games, but I did want to get to the game last night between LSU and USC. And that was probably the best game of the weekend. So both teams obviously have new quarterbacks. The number 1 and number 2 overall picks in the NFL draft, Caleb Williams and Jayden Daniels. They're both playing in the NFL now, so they were debuting their new quarterbacks. For USC, you had Miller Moss, and then for LSU, you had Garrett Nussmeier, and they both played well. Moss went 27 to 36 for 378 yards and a touchdown, and Nussmeier went 29 to 38 for 304 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Now, Brian Kelly had some interesting comments at the end of the game. So the first one he said is, talking about Miller Moss, he said he outplayed our quarterback. And I know, and Bleacher Report posted his quotes, and that there were a lot of comments saying, like, why would you say that? I mean, it's not like their quarterback didn't play well. I mean, he did throw a pick, but, Nussmeier played well too. And then he also said, what we're doing on the sideline is feeling like the game's over, and I'm so angry about it. So, yeah, he was not happy with the effort towards the end of the game because USC got the ball back, and it looked like, they were going to line up and kick a game-winning field goal, but that was not the case. They ended up getting a rushing touchdown. Woody Marks scored the game-winning scored from 13 yards out. But, yeah, Miller Moss, he's he could have went to a different school and got a chance to start, but he sat behind Caleb Williams. In his bowl game, the bowl game he played last year, I think he had 6 passing touchdowns, so this was his, second career start. And he looked good, and there was that insane one-handed catch during the game, and that was by one of the receivers on USC. It was unbelievable. I mean, it was Odell-esque, that catch. And I'm trying to see if I can find it. But yeah, it was unbelievable. So it was by Kyron Hudson in the first half, and he had 5 receptions for 83 yards. But Miller Moss at the end of the game was very emotional, because he sat behind Caleb Williams and finally gets his opportunity on a big stage, and USC gets the win. And like I said, very entertaining game. And next week they take on Utah State. Then they play Michigan the following week, and that's going to be at Michigan. They play Penn State later on in the year. They play Notre Dame at the end of the year. So, but yeah, good start for their young quarterback. And then for LSU, they take on Nicholls State next week. So, LSU actually has a really tough schedule. The second half of the season, I mean, they take on Ole Miss, they take on A&M, they take on Alabama, they take on Florida. Vanderbilt got a big win, and then they take on Oklahoma to end off the year. So, yeah, that's they didn't get off to the start they wanted, but yeah, so that's basically the whole week. So tried to cover it the best way I can. Went around to all the big matchups, but yeah, no, it was an exciting week, and then we get the NFL back. So looking forward to it. But let me know what you guys think. What were some of your takeaways from week 1? Let me know in the comments. So we are going to take our first break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about the week 1 matchup between the Ravens and the Chiefs, and we'll talk about the history between Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the news it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh,
feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're going to talk about the Week 1 matchup between the Ravens and the Chiefs. We'll take a look at, the history between Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. And, last year was the first time, in a couple of years that they actually did play against each other because, the first, few seasons, well, Mahomes got drafted in 2017, didn't, start till 2018. But, they did play between 2018 and 2020. But then 21 and 22, they did not match up against each other. But then last year, they matched up in the biggest game of the year for them at that point, and that was the AFC Championship game. But yeah, these are the statistics between the playoffs and the regular season. So Mahomes obviously, his stats are better. 4-1 against Lamar Jackson. 13 touchdowns to 5 touchdowns. 1,700 yards passing. 2 interceptions to 3 interceptions, and Lamar Jackson's been sacked more. But yeah, so you go back to the 2018 game when they matched up. I mean, the Ravens, they were winning that game. And then Patrick Mahomes had that unbelievable play where he hit Tyreek Hill in that 4th and 9. They tied the game. That game ended up going into overtime. The Chiefs won that game. Actually, Lamar Jackson didn't play on the final play. RG3 had to come in. But yeah, that was a great game. And then they played the following year. They played early on in the season, week 2. The Chiefs won that game. They played in 2020. Chiefs won that game as well. 2021, the Chiefs kind of gave that game away to the Ravens. They were up by 11, but, there was a little bit of lollygagging, and then, the Ravens ended up taking the lead. And the Chiefs were driving, and it looked like they were going to win that game, but then Clyde Edwards-Helaire had that fumble, and the Ravens took over. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, they went for it in their own territory. It was 4th and 1, and Lamar Jackson picked up the first down, and he won his first game against Patrick Mahomes. And then, they didn't play in 2022. I meant to say they didn't play in 2022. That's my bad. They played in 2021. That was the game that they won. The Ravens won. They didn't play in 2022. And then they didn't play in the regular season in 2023. So yeah, that's really it was a while since they last played each other. And then they played in the AFC Championship game, which the Chiefs ended up winning, 17-10, a low-scoring game. And here we are. This is going to be the 6th matchup between these two guys. And it's week 1. And I know Lamar Jackson has said, look, it's one game. But for me, I do think this game is important because this is the team that could be standing in your way to get to another Super Bowl or to get to a Super Bowl. And it happened last year. And that was the year for the Ravens to do it. They had the best record. They had home field advantage. Lamar Jackson won his 2nd MVP. The Chiefs offensively weren't great last year. That was the time to do it. And it just ended up not being the case. Now you come into this season, you pretty much got everybody back, plus Derrick Henry. The Chiefs did get better offensively. But, go in there and get a win. Set the tone for the season. But I mean, look, if they lose, it's not the end of the world, because this team is still going to be very good and they'll make the playoffs. But you kind of want to see Lamar Jackson get another win against Patrick Mahomes, because you look at some of the other quarterbacks that Mahomes has gone against, like Burrow and like Josh Allen. Josh Allen kind of owns Patrick Mahomes in the regular season. Patrick Mahomes owns him in the postseason. Joe Burrow is 3-1 against Mahomes. Knocked Mahomes out for a trip to the Super Bowl. I guess the 2021 game, that does hold weight just because that's his only win against Mahomes. And, there was a big play in that game that decided it. And that was, them going for it in their own territory. That was a signature play, and Lamar picking it up. But you kind of want to see Lamar Jackson get another win under his belt against Mahomes. Because when they first started going against each other, you thought, yeah, this is going to be... It's funny because it was between Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. It was like, okay, this is going to be the next Manning Brady. Then it was with Josh Allen. Then it was with Burrow. It's kind of funny how that all has played out. But Patrick Mahomes is in his own class right now. All these young quarterbacks, they're, all grouped together, and then Mahomes is in a class of his own. Who's going to be the quarterback that separates himself from the pack? Now, right now, it looks like Joe Burrow, because Joe Burrow has beaten Mahomes in the playoffs and has played in the Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson hasn't done that. Josh Allen hasn't done that. So, I do think this game does hold some weight. But at the same time, if the Ravens do lose, it's not the end of the world. And they'll pick up the pieces and they'll, move forward. And like I said, this is a team, if they stay healthy, if Lamar Jackson stays healthy, because we saw what happens when he does stay healthy. When he's not healthy, the Ravens don't make the playoffs. Well, they did in 2022, but Tyler Huntley had to start that playoff game against the Bengals. But, when Lamar Jackson's healthy, this team is a playoff team. So, yeah, they lose this game, and you move forward, and you see if you see him again. But, like I said, set the tone. Win this game, because that'll put a lot of people on notice. Like, all right, they went into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead. All right. That was impressive. Now, you might see him again in the playoffs, and then you got to do it again. And I think that's really that's when it's really going to matter. Because last year you failed to do that. But I just feel like this is not just another game. Now, they're going to treat it like that. But this is a team that has given you a problem. This is a quarterback that has given you a problem. You want to show that you're equals and that you can hang with them. And it's not like Lamar hasn't beaten Mahomes. He has. But could have very easily lost that game. The Chiefs, you could argue the Chiefs gave away that game. And Mahomes will be 5-0 against Lamar Jackson. So we got to see what happens. But it's going to be a fun game. Right now, the Ravens are 2.5 point underdogs. So, and now you got Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry has given the Chiefs problems in the past. Derrick Henry gave the Ravens some problems in the past. Can Derrick Henry be a difference maker? Can he be that missing piece? Now, he's 30 years old, plays running back, but this is probably one of the best situations he could have ended up in. So I think he's going to have a productive year. Now, there's some things I do worry about with the Ravens, like the receiver position. They got two great tight ends with Likely and Mark Andrews. But who's going to be the receivers that step up? I feel like the receiver position's a little lacking for the Ravens. But they're a team that loves to run the football. That's their strength. But, I feel like the receiver position's a little thin there. I mean, Zay Flowers had a good year for them last year. They paid Rashad Bateman. You still got Aguilar, who was decent for them. But, I don't know. I feel like they could have done more there. But we'll see. But they still got that very good defense. And, yeah, we'll see how this game goes. I'll make my pick for it on Thursday. But yeah, it's going to be an exciting game. This is a great way to start off the year. And on top of that, the following week, then you got Burrow against Mahomes. It's interesting how they set up the season for the Chiefs, because usually, like, they've played the Ravens early on in the season, usually. Other than when they first matched up against each other. But the other matchups in the regular season, they came, the first couple weeks of the season, and then the AFC Championship game was last year. When it comes to Burrow and Mahomes, that's, towards the end of the year. Or in the playoffs. So, it's going to be a fun game. It's going to be a fun 2 weeks watching the Chiefs go up against these teams. Now, fortunately for the Chiefs, they're both at home. So, Marquise Brown is not playing in the opener, the former Raven. So I guess that kind of helps, the Ravens. But, we'll see how Xavier Worthy is, their rookie wide receiver. Rashee Rice will be playing. Travis Kelce's healthy going into this year, because last year he didn't play in the opener. So the Chiefs' offense is going to be better than what it was last year. So that should make the Ravens and the rest of the NFL a little nervous. But we'll see what happens in this game. But let me know what you guys think about the history between these two quarterbacks. How do you see the game playing out on Thursday? So before we go to break, I just want to remind you guys again, if you want to tip or donate and get your comment recognized, make sure to go to the $ icon in the chat. That will create a super chat for you. I will highlight the super chat during the live broadcast, and it just makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day as we put out content for you guys. And if you want to help out the show, or if you want to do it the alternative way, and that is by going to the link, which is GSMCpodcast.net. That is also the other way you can help out the show. But yeah, any way you guys can help out the show, we really do appreciate it. So we're going to take another break. When we come back, we will talk about Jamar Chase, some updates on him, and what kind of contract that he wants. So we'll talk about that when we come back from our second break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to talk about Ja'Marr Chase and the kind of contract that he wants. Wants a little bit more than his former LSU teammate, Justin Jefferson. But I did want to acknowledge that Natty Ron, who has been in the chat in the past, has returned. So I wanted to acknowledge that. He made some comments in the chat when I went to break. So what's going on, man? Hope everything is well. He said, been out working, but football season is back. That is correct. He's a diehard Bengals fan. He's saying the rumor is that Ja'Marr Chase could be getting paid before kickoff Thursday, the same way they did Joe Burrow's announcement. I really hope that's the case because, for me personally, I have him in one of my fantasy leagues, and I need him to come back because he was my first pick. And I'm banking on him and Joe Burrow to have a great year together, and the Bengals have a good year. So I really hope that's the case because this cannot extend into the regular season. That's going to be a problem. So that would be great if that's the case. I mean, and I think the Bengals really want to get a deal done because they don't want him missing time. But it's just interesting to me that he's got 2 years left on his deal, and he wants his new deal now. Now, it kind of makes sense because everybody, like every receiver got paid this offseason, it seems. CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Ayuk, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Justin Jefferson, like literally all the top receivers. Tyreek Hill got a new deal. All the top receivers got new deals. And I guess he just felt like, where's my new deal? Now, the Bengals, I think, would have, given him that new deal with 1 year left. They could have got something done then. Natty Ron says, if they don't do it now, it's definitely going to be expensive next year. Yeah, it's true. Because Ja'Marr Chase, he could go out there and, put up insane numbers, kind of like what CeeDee Lamb did, and then the price is higher. And then he also said, Natty Ron says, it's a rare case, just like a quarterback, you might have to pay this guy. Yeah, my thing is this. I was always under the impression that the Bengals were going to, pay Ja'Marr Chase. My thing is, T. Higgins, he'd be on his way out and getting his money elsewhere. So I was never under the impression that, Ja'Marr Chase had really anything to worry about. I was looking at it as they're prioritizing Ja'Marr Chase. They're going to let T. Higgins walk. That's why they drafted another receiver. They're going to let T. Higgins walk. They're going to give Ja'Marr Chase a lot of money. But Ja'Marr Chase wants his money now. And does he deserve to get paid? Absolutely. He's one of the best receivers in the NFL. But it's just kind of interesting how he's got 2 years left on his deal, but he wants it done now. But yeah, so he wants to be the highest paid receiver in the NFL. He's holding out to secure a new deal that matches or exceeds Jefferson's 4-year, $140 million contract, which averages $35 million a year. This comes from Ian Rappaport. And, a comparison between Jefferson and Chase. So, Chase's LSU stats from 2019, he had 1,780 receiving yards and 20 touchdowns. Justin Jefferson had 1,540 receiving yards and 18 touchdowns. And then, their NFL stats, Chase has had 268 receptions, 3,717 receiving yards, and 29 touchdowns. Jefferson, 324 receptions, 4,825 receiving yards, and 25 touchdowns. They're two of the top receivers in the NFL. And Chase wants to get his money, and he deserves it. Now, is he going to get that kind of money? We'll see. We'll find out in the coming days if, Natty Ron's, birdie is correct, and that, he gets paid on Thursday, but we got to wait and see. He also said in the chat, just saying if the Bengals pay him, the whole motto and vibe will change on that team for the good. Boy, the ultimate goal is to get to New Orleans. Yeah, I mean, look, if they get this out of the way, then they can move forward. Yeah, I know what you meant, Natty Ron. They want to get to the Super Bowl. But yeah, you get this out of the way, you get this squared away, and you can move forward. And then see what happens. I mean, I think this is the last time you're going to see Burrow, Chase, and Higgins all on the same team together. I think T. Higgins, this might be it for him. I mean, it would be interesting imagine if like Jamar Chase ended up leaving somehow, forcing his way out, and then T. Higgins ended up staying. But that's not going to happen. I think it's going to be T. Higgins that ultimately is going to leave and find a new deal somewhere else. But we'll see. Natty Ron also says in the chat, do you think the NFL will take the Bengals more serious? Because lately it's just been a lot of jokes about this team. Well, what kind of jokes? I mean, this team made it to the AFC Championship game back-to-back years. Last year they were going to make the playoffs, but Joe Burrow got hurt. I haven't really heard anybody making jokes about the Bengals. A lot of pundits don't believe that the Bengals can even make it to the playoffs because of the division. That I can understand. I mean, the division is the best division in football. Every team in that division is going to be making a playoff push this year. Even the Steelers, if you have your complaints about their quarterback position. I can understand that. I feel like there's people that they have concerns about the Bengals defense, that it's not as good as it has been the past couple of years. Maybe that's one thing to look at. The offensive line, we'll see how that is this year. I mean, that's you want to make sure that's intact because, you want to protect your quarterback. They don't have Tyler Boyd anymore. Joe Mixon, they sent to Houston to play for the Texans. They brought in Zach Moss. Mike Gesicki is now there at the tight end spot. But you still got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And that is one of the best duos in the NFL when it comes to receivers. So I don't really know where have you been seeing jokes about this team? Because this team is not a joke. Because if Joe Burrow's healthy, now if Joe Burrow's not healthy, then no one's really going to take this team seriously. No offense to Jake Browning because he did a nice job filling in for Burrow, but yeah, I don't really know what you mean there with people making jokes. Because if Joe Burrow is healthy, this team could go to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. So, but I do understand though that maybe Burrow isn't healthy, and because of the division that they play in, maybe they, one of my friends thinks the Bengals are going to finish in last in their division, which I don't think. I don't think so. I think with the healthy Burrow, they finish at least in second place, they're going to be battling it out with the Ravens, I think, for first place. But the lowest I think they're going to finish is second place. Natty Ron also says, I think the Dolphins can win the AFC East and Bengals win the North. Can the Bears be sneaky good? The Dolphins have the talent to win the division. I, believe it or not, have them finishing in third in the division. I have them finishing in third. Bengals, I think, can win the North. I think I'm going to take the Ravens to win the North, but yeah, I think they're gonna. I think the Ravens are gonna win the North. Bengals are gonna make it as a wild card team. I do think the Bears can be good. I have them winning 9 games. I think they're gonna be a team that they're gonna start off slow, but they're gonna get hot towards the end of the year. I think they might just miss the playoffs because I know when I was going through it, the wild card teams that I had in the NFC, I didn't have the Bears included in that. So I think they're just gonna miss out on the playoffs. So, we'll see what happens there. But, yeah, I think they could be good because the Bears have a lot of talent. And I've said it. It's hard for me to see them not have a good year. Now, the one thing you could point to is the head coach, Matt Eberflus, not being the guy, but I don't know. The defense played well towards the end of the year. I love their receiving core. I like their offense, and Caleb Williams looks like, he's going to be the guy. So, we got to see. Their first game is against the Titans in week 1. So, we'll see what happens there. But then we got a little bit off topic because we're talking about Ja'Marr Chase. But, yeah, I hope Ja'Marr Chase does get his contract. Like I've been saying, I think if he misses any time, I think that hurts him. You got to be out there with your teammates. Try to work through this. The Bengals do want to pay you. It's just, again, it's all behind closed doors, these negotiations, so we'll see how it goes. Natty Ron also says, I see Chicago getting a wild card. I really like this defense and their wide receivers. Yeah. And if Caleb Williams plays well, because, you go back to 2012. You had 3 rookie quarterbacks make the playoffs. He could definitely do that. But I know, because when I was going through it, I had Dallas as one wild card team. I had the Rams as another wild card team. And I forget who else I had. Oh, and I had one of the NFC North teams. But it wasn't the Bears. I had, the Packers or the Lions are going to be the other wild card team. So that leaves the Bears out of it. Natty Ron also says the safeties will be great and the quarterbacks will be good. I'm more concerned about the defensive line. I'm expecting a little bit more from Sheldon Rankings. Yeah, we'll see. I know Sheldon Rankins was brought in to replace DJ Reader. Trey Hendrickson you still got. I know they brought over Geno Stone from the Ravens. So, yeah, we'll see. That's probably the one thing that I'd be concerned about. Well, I'd be concerned about Burrow's health, but also how is the defense going to play? Stopping the run is a major problem. Yeah, no, you got to make sure you do that. And Rankins is a good player, so hopefully, that helps you guys out. But let me know what you guys think, though, about Ja'Marr Chase. Does he get his new contract, or is this going to extend into the regular season? So we're going to take our next break. When we come back, we will talk about Deshaun Watson and his contract restructure. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we're going to talk about Deshaun Watson and his contract restructure. Natty Ron also saying in the chat, interesting move by Cleveland because this quarterback doesn't work out this year. You pull out of that contract and pay him off and go draft a young quarterback like all the other teams are doing. Yeah, I mean, this has been a disappointing contract that the Browns have given out to Deshaun Watson. He has not lived up to that contract. And, if the Browns are going to want to continue to be able to compete, and continue to add talent to this team, you want to have the cap space. And, Deshaun Watson, by him not playing, when he does play, he's not playing well. He is hurting them. So, I think this was the right move here. Now, the specifics of that contract restructure. So, the Browns converted $44.8 million of Watson's base salary into a signing bonus. The restructuring created $35.8 million in cap space for the team. The Browns now hold on to an NFL high $62 million in cap space, in cap room, which is a lot. Prior to the restructure, the Browns had $15.8 million in cap space. NFL teams are allowed to carry over unused cap space into the next season. So that's huge. The Browns are already projected to be $44 million over the 2025 cap. The team is expected to roll over a significant portion of this season's cap space to manage the 2025 cap situation. Notable players that are going to be free agents after the season. You have Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, Nick Chubb, and Jarek Wills on the offensive line. They're among players that, the Browns maybe want to bring back. It's going to be interesting what they do with Nick Chubb. Now, an update on Nick Chubb, actually. So, it's being reported that he could come back mid-season. So, he's already on the PUP list. And he's definitely going to miss the first 4 games of the year. But he might not come back till mid-season. So, that's something to keep an eye on. But, yeah, I mean, with that being the case, you wonder. I mean, maybe if he comes back and he plays really well, then maybe the Browns are like, we got to keep this guy around. And maybe they do keep him around anyways just because of, Nick Chubb has been there since 2018. He's one of the, one of the faces of the franchise. Maybe they still bring him back. I mean, depends, though. Natty Ron said they might move on from Chubb. Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see them doing that, especially with the injury he's coming off of. I mean, if he doesn't look right, they might say, you know what, we're going to go in a different direction. So we'll see. But yeah, those are some key free agents. Jarek Wills is someone on the offensive line. I mean, I could see them bringing him back, but Amari Cooper being an older player, maybe they move off of him because they paid Jerry Jeudy, so maybe Jerry Jeudy turns into the the number one receiver if Amari Cooper ends up leaving. But we'll have to see. Deshaun Watson really has struggled since joining the Browns. He's played in 12 games over the past 2 seasons. And these are his stats. So, over the 2 years, 2,217 passing yards, 14 touchdowns to 9 interceptions, and a completion rate of 59.8. So, not great. This is a fully guaranteed contract, $230 million. Really does make it difficult for the Browns to move off of him. But it was amazing how last year they still won 11 games. They won 11 games with 5 different starting quarterbacks. Now, the Browns don't want to have a repeat of that. They want to go into this year. Deshaun Watson is their guy from here on out. You got Jameis Winston and DTR backing him up. Tyler Huntley actually went back to the Ravens. DTR impressed him in the preseason, so he's the third quarterback. You got Jameis. But they're hoping that Deshaun Watson is the guy. And he turns back into the Deshaun Watson that, was a good quarterback in Houston. But I just don't see it happening. I think he'll be okay. Like, he's going to be inconsistent. That's right. That's really how I look at it. He's going to be inconsistent. So, Natty Ron said Cleveland, New England, the Giants will make a run at T. Higgins, I believe, or the Chargers. I would love if the Giants made a run at T. Higgins. You pair him with Malik Neighbors, that would be great. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think some of the other teams you mentioned probably have a leg up. But we'll see. Giants are another team that needs a quarterback because he also said Cleveland needs a quarterback. Yeah, and I said this in the production meeting, if they didn't get rid of Baker Mayfield, you wouldn't have this problem. Look at what Baker's done. Look at what Baker did last year. Should have kept him around. And listen, I know what Baker is at this point, but he's a better quarterback right now than Deshaun Watson. So I'm just saying. I think they didn't do right by Baker Mayfield. So, but we'll see what happens. The Browns, their first game is against the Dallas Cowboys, which is one of the better matchups of the weekend. I'm looking forward to that. Natty Ron said, yeah, letting Baker go back. Then big time. Yeah, no, listen, I'm a Baker Mayfield guy. I want Baker to continue to play well in Tampa. Got that new contract, and I hope he continues to play well. Because I think Cleveland, did him dirty. And bounced around from the Panthers to the Rams, and then, Tampa last year. I mean, it looked like he was just going to be, there for 1 year, and then that was it. Just to be a stopgap quarterback, but he played well enough. The Bucs won the division. They made the playoffs. They won a playoff game. They played well against the Lions, and he got his contract. And the Bucs are running it back this year. So, let's see what he ends up doing. And we actually will talk about Baker a little bit, in a little bit, because I'll go over my predictions for the AFC or the NFC South. But yeah, I if the Browns would have just kept Baker, this would not have been a problem. This wouldn't be a problem right now. But they really thought at the time that they were upgrading the quarterback position. But it just ended up not happening. So there's nothing they could really do about it now, but other than restructuring his deal. But yeah, so far this looked like a bad deal. Now, they really got to hope that Deshaun Watson comes out and plays really well. Because if not, this is going to continue to be a problem. So, we'll see what happens, but let me know what you guys think, though, about the Deshaun Watson contract. How do you see him performing? I mean, you hear from certain people in the media, certain articles like, oh, Deshaun Watson looks great. But you really don't know until he takes the field and plays in meaningful games. That's the only way we're really going to be able to evaluate him. Now they're going up against a good defense in Dallas, so, only time will tell. But, right now, I still think Deshaun Watson's going to be, inconsistent. He'll have his moments, but we're not going to see the Deshaun Watson that we saw from Houston. Natty Ron says, that's why we call them the mistake on the lake. A little Ohio humor. I like that. Also, you're a Bengals fan, Natty Ron. Why is it that they have a problem beating the Browns in Cleveland? Why has that been such an issue for them since Burrow's been the starter? I don't understand that. It's really strange. Because last year they played him. Burrow wasn't healthy to start the year, but they went into Cleveland and got shut out. They have such a problem beating the Browns in Cleveland. I don't know what the deal is there. So we'll see if they could change that this year. But, yeah, let me know what you guys think, though, about the Deshaun Watson stuff. How do you see him performing in 2024? Let me know in the comments. He said it's a big brother versus little brother thing in Ohio. Gotcha. So when we come back, we'll talk about the NFC South. I will predict how that division is going to shape out. So that's what we'll do when we come back from our final break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast, and for the final part of the show, we'll get into the NFC South, and I'll give you my predictions for how that division is going to shape out in 2024. So last year, of course, the Buccaneers won that division at 9-8. Things change. Kirk Cousins is now leading the charge for the Falcons. This is how I have the division shaping out. Panthers did not have a good year last year. I still think it's going to be more of the same, even though they did make some changes. New head coach. They improved the offensive line. They put more weapons around Bryce Young. I don't know. I still got them finishing with 3 wins. Then the Saints, they finished 9-8 last year. Derek Carr finished the year strong. I don't know. They're a weird team to predict. I feel like, I don't know if they're going to be able to carry that momentum over from last year into this year. And I'm just not a believer in Dennis Allen. So I'm going to say they finished with 7 wins. The Bucs, look, they can't afford that mid-season struggle that they had this year. I think they're going to finish with 1 less win than they did last year. Although I hope I'm wrong. But I got them at 8-9. And then I got the Falcons winning the division at 10-7. And that's mainly because they upgraded at quarterback with Kirk Cousins. Now, there's question marks across the board when it comes to the head coaches. Let's see how Raheem Morris is. Dennis Allen hasn't been great for the Saints. Todd Bowles, again, they made the playoffs last year, but still don't think he's a great head coach. But he knows how to coach a defense. And, now Dave Canales is the head coach of the Panthers. So, we'll see what this year brings. But I just feel like with Kirk Cousins now as the quarterback for the Falcons, a veteran, the Falcons get the quarterback that they've needed. And I know he's coming off of a significant injury. But I just feel like with him now there, he puts up good numbers. I feel like he's good enough that this team will get a few more wins than they did last year, because they went 7-10 last year. And they'll make the playoffs, win the division, host a playoff game. And then as for the other teams, I don't see any of them making the playoffs. I don't have them in the playoffs. Again, I hope I'm wrong. But this is kind of how I see the division shaping out. Now, I feel like 3 wins might be a little bit too low for the Panthers. If Bryce Young ends up playing really well with the new head coach. And again, they added more weapons. They traded for Deontay Johnson. They drafted Xavier Legette. They drafted Jonathan Brooks, a running back. So they really have attempted to try to surround Bryce Young with more talent. So if they do that, and Bryce Young responds and ends up playing well, then, yeah, I mean, they could win more than 3 games. But I don't know. I just had them at 3. The Saints, I don't know. They were just such an up-and-down team last year. Inconsistent. Really couldn't figure them out. They went 9-8. Got them winning 7 games. But we'll see. The Falcons, on paper, you would think, yeah, they're the best team in the division. But they got to go out there and prove it. So, and I just realized this whole time I didn't change the segment title. That's my fault. But, yeah, we got to see. And the first time we see Kirk Cousins in a Falcons uniform, that'll be against the Steelers on Sunday. Natty Ron also says all Atlanta needed was a quarterback. Definitely improved. Baker versus Kirk. Not a bad quarterback matchup. Yeah. I think that's what it's going to come down to. It's going to come down to the Buccaneers and the Falcons. And then and the Saints. Like, I don't really... I think it's between those 3 teams. I think the Panthers, they got an outside chance. But who knows? I just think the Falcons on paper are the best team. The Saints, they got an older team. Guys on defense are getting older. Kamara's getting older. And Derek Carr's getting older too. And he wasn't, finished the year strong, but, wasn't great at certain points during the year. So, I don't know. We'll see how that division all plays out. But that's what I got. I got the Falcons making the playoffs, winning the division. You got the 3 teams I don't have making the playoffs. So, but let me know what you guys think, though. How do you see this division playing out? So, yeah, that's the AFC South. We got one more division in the NFC. Then we got every, division in the the NFC. We got every division in the AFC we got to get to. And that'll take us up to Thursday, which is the start of the season. And look, I'm really excited. It's been a long off season. I've said that many times, but we've made it, and I'm so happy. Football's back, and I need it to be back because the Yankees have really been frustrating me as of late. I don't know what's going on with them. They win one game. They look like the best team. Look like they're going on a run, and then they can't beat teams that are under 500. It's a very, very strange year for them. But also, I'm still trying to get over this cold, these allergies that I've had going on. So I know that's why my voice sounds a little funky again. But I'm definitely on the other side of it. But, it's still not 100% yet. But I will say that I am getting better. So I appreciate you guys sticking with me as I try to get through this. So it's been annoying, but like I said, it's definitely getting better. So hopefully by the end of the week, we're back to 100%. But who knows? It's very strange. But yeah, definitely am feeling better than how I was last week. That's for sure. But still got some hurdles to hop over. So, But appreciate you guys tuning in today. And Addy Ryan also saying in the chat, Dolphins, Jets, Bills, Patriots. Not sure what you're trying to get at here. You're naming every team in the standings. Okay. The Dolphins got in first, Jets in second, Bills third, Patriots fourth. Appreciate it. He's heading out. Good to see you, Natty Ron. Hopefully see you tomorrow. He just said gotta go. Good show. So yeah, he has the Dolphins finishing in first, Jets in second, Bills third, Patriots fourth. Texans first, Jags second, Colts third, Titans 4. Then the Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos, Raiders in last. Yeah, I don't know about that. I might flip-flop Raiders and the Broncos. And then the Bengals, Ravens, Browns, Steelers. Probably going to flip-flop the Ravens and the Bengals. So, but yeah, no, I'll get to those tomorrow. I'll give you my standings for the NFC West, and then kind of got to jam up the AFC just because Thursday. Thursday's the start. Thursday's the start of the season. So, and then we also got a game on Friday. So I mean, it's gonna be a jam-packed weekend because you got Chiefs Ravens Thursday, then you got Packers Eagles Friday, Saturday whole slate of college football, and then Sunday you got NFL Sunday, and then Monday is 49ers Jets. So a lot of football to digest. So we just got to get through these 3 days. And then, actually, I forgot to mention it. Florida State does play tonight. They're trying to get back on track after losing to Georgia Tech last week. They're taking on Boston College tonight. So that's at 7:30, and that'll be on ESPN. They're a 16.5-point favorite. So, they're hoping to get back on track after last week's loss to Georgia Tech. So we'll see if they could do that. But again, thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully, little by little, I get there and I don't sound like this anymore because this has been, it's aggravating because I just want it to go away. But like I said, I think I'm on the other side of it. So, but yeah, make sure to check out all the other shows. Give the other shows some love. Football is back, and I am really happy that it is. So, that is all the time that we have for today. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their Labor Day weekend. So as always, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your Labor Day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.